Hi, my name is Kimberly Douglas Mankin, and I want to talk you through what we're going to be doing for alpha testing for the new MentorNet program. My role is that I'm the VP of Programs and Community for MentorNet, and so I'm essentially responsible for making sure that we end up with programming that will support our new community as we go forward implementing our new platform. So I want to first share with you a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. And maybe before I go there, I first want to thank Richard for all of his hard work working with the Mentor Protege Council to get us volunteers, and also say how much I appreciate each of you for being willing to help us out with this. In addition to the Mentor Protege Council, UT Austin and Louisiana Tech have students that are willing to help us test this, and we so appreciate your time in helping us make sure that the functionality of our site is working the way that it ought to. So what I'd like to do is sort of talk you through our testing plan, and first give you an outline of what I'm going to share with you today. I'm going to talk about what we're going to be testing. I'm going to talk about what we're not going to be testing. I'm going to talk about what profile characteristics contribute to someone being matched with someone else. I'm also going to later share with you what the onboarding process looks like, so that you get a sense of what the look and feel is. And so that's really what we're about today. But first, before I do that, I want to point out that it's really not as simple as it looks. And what I mean by that, Mary Fernandez, who is our CEO, said really wanted to be here and do this today, but she wasn't able to. And what she said was that she really wanted me to share with you that what we've created is a software as a service platform. And what I mean by that is that it can actually be instantiated for different distinct mentoring communities. So if we go take a look at hopping back over to the internet and go take a look, this is actually an example of another instantiation of the MentorNet platform. It was created for the Women in Public Service Project, which essentially provides mentoring worldwide for women diplomats. So you can see that they've created their own look and feel. They have their own curriculum within. They have their own. Can have their own processes for how they go about matching people. They have many of the same features and functionality that we have within the MentorNet site that's been instantiated for their use. And so the process that Mary used in working with our developers to design and implement MentorNet is actually, there's a lot going on under the hood, as you might say. And it's exciting to think about what we'll be able to do as we go forward. That being said, Mary's given presentations around the country over the last few months where she's shown a bit about what we're going to be able to do with instantiation. And what happens after those talks is that we instantly get a flood of calls with people that think that they want to instantiate our site. You could think about that as though if they did instantiate, what they would do is go create a walled garden that they would exist within. We found from going through the instantiation process with the Wilson Center that it actually takes a lot more to do than we had originally anticipated in terms of the customer support. But more importantly, if you think about the mission of MentorNet, we're about making a difference for STEM students and the STEM fields in general. So what we're working towards is actually trying to create a structure by which different people that think they would want to instantiate could actually exist within our platform, being able to customize and have that experience be unique for their own population. But the nice thing about that is that it then would allow them to migrate in and out. If they decide that they're not going to be a part of that sub-community anymore, they're already on the MentorNet platform and can still take advantage of services. Let's transition on then and talk about the things that I actually had on my agenda, which are first that what we're going to be testing. We'll be testing profile creation. I know that a number of you, the Mentor Protege Council, worked with us in December to do some initial testing of the profile creation. I think what you'll find whenever you onboard this time that you'll see that the feedback from that process has been incorporated, and I hope that you see that improvement. But we'll look forward to taking additional suggestions as well. We'll also be testing the matching processes, including match invitations. So the protege will actually send invitations to mentors to participate. We'll test acceptance and decline, and we'll also test an auto-canceling feature that essentially puts, if there's a time delay in a invitation being accepted, it essentially auto-cancels and allows the protege to ask someone else to be a mentor. So we'll set up a schedule so that we can test those things. Then after the match has been created, we'll test the delivery of discussion prompts, which are essentially messages. I will use the word curriculum to describe a series of discussion prompts that would be delivered to a mentor and a protege. So when I use that word, that's what that means. We'll test the scheduling of those. Did you get them at the right time? We'll test the ability to be able to click through to a chat page where you learn more about what the discussion topic actually is, and then where you can communicate back and forth. While we'll be using that chat feature, you will have the ability to talk out of band the way you had within the old system. We'll also test the ability to have varying mentor and protege prompts and reminder processes if you don't click through to get that. We'll also test the use of multiple curriculums to create a whole curriculum, and what I mean by that is that essentially we might have certain days, in this case for the alpha test, where we'll want the prompts to be different based on an attribute of the protege. The other thing that we'll be testing is that different curriculums for different developmental levels. We'll be testing the match chat features, whether it functions properly, whether notifications take place at the right time, and then reminder systems within that. We'll be testing whether you can make profile changes. Later on, we'll be testing pop-up questions, which is essentially our way to populate other demographic characteristics or questions that we might have for the group over time. And then we'll be testing a group chat feature, which is essentially a sort of forum feature that will allow you to communicate with each other as we go along. If you read much about testing plans, you know that it's just as important that you talk about what you're not testing. And I'd say that I've called this what we're not testing, but I guess I'd really maybe clarify that a bit and say what's really not our focus. And most specifically, we're not going to actually be testing the curriculum or discussion prompts themselves during this test. So we're not really looking for question wording or wordsmithing types of comments or typos on those. We're not going to be testing a fully featured forum function at this point in time. Our user interface is evolving, so while I would say that general input on it is always welcome, for example, if you're using different browsers and if you're running into problems on a particular browser, we'd want to know that. But one of the things that you're going to find is that there's a lot of real estate on this screen that we're going to be able to use for other purposes later on, like being able to make our community aware of different opportunities, or to have corporate sponsors be able to be highlighted to certain groups of people, that sort of thing. The white space that you'll see on the screen is there for a reason, and it will be used at later phases of our implementation. We're not really testing cosmetics. What I mean by that is I know I have a lot of really detailed people that are helping with this test, and what I would say is that we would want you to note these because we do want to do a cleanup, but we know that we do have a lot of cosmetics that still need to be cleaned up. That's not really our focus. Our focus at this point in time is functionality. We're also not testing features that are going to be implemented in other phases, and an example of that is we have a strategic partner, ODScore, that has actually allowed us to adapt their training that we're going to use for both our mentors and our proteges. And we're not actually going to be testing training as an integral part of the onboarding experience at this point in time. It's something that'll come later on. In terms of thinking about the process specifics of what's going to go on, let me share with you a little bit about what the alpha schedule looks like. And what you can see on this schedule is that I've outlined the next couple of weeks, and then I talk about what's going to happen on particular days, what are we actually looking for, and then what's going to happen behind the scenes. And I will make this schedule available either through Dropbox or Google Drive, one of the two. But essentially what I want to point out at the moment is that right now we're at kickoff and sharing our intent. We're first going to be onboarding mentors and testers, and that'll happen right away. And then I'm going to be recording this session so that the proteges that have volunteered from UT Austin and Louisiana Tech and Virginia Tech will actually be able to listen in and find out what's going on. I'd like to actually have everybody create their profile by 5 p.m. on Saturday, because what I want to do, when I first started this, I hadn't incorporated the Easter schedule into my planning. And so we're actually going to use Easter Day to map out who's going to be matched with who within the system. And I need you to be onboarded so that I can see your characteristics in order to do that. I'll actually give each of the proteges someone that they're first going to invite and have either decline or be auto-canceled, and then I'll also give information on who then they'll turn around and invite and will actually be their match partner. Got to have some time to sort of get that process in place. We'll test those processes at the beginning of next week on April the 21st and 22nd. And then after that, these later sections will be the times whenever we're actually delivering prompt delivery and making sure that you're getting the right messages at the right time and that our logic is working properly. And that's sort of what we have in mind in terms of an overall schedule. And the most critical time frame is for you to be able to get on and get a profile created by Saturday the 19th at 5. That process takes about 5 minutes, and I'll show you how it works here in a minute so that you get a better feel for it. Going back to my agenda, I have one more thing that I want to share before I go show you what it looks like to come on board. And that is, these are the profile characteristics that currently contribute to matching. That includes the developmental level of the protege, the educational level of the mentor, field of study of both the protege and the mentor, partner organization membership, if someone that's in the system or on the platform is a member of one of those organizations, topics of interest in terms of what they'd like to discuss, gender, first generation, ethnicity, race, spoken languages. At this point, these characteristics are ones that many of which were ones that were historically used within the MentorNet platform, sort of center around the looking for someone who looks like the person that's being mentored. I think that as we go forward, we'll be doing more in terms of researching what we think leads to a successful match, but right now we're really at the base level matching processes that we're going to use as we get started. So that's a little bit about what our testing strategy is going to be. What I'd like to do now is to actually go show you what onboarding looks like. Let's first look at what it take just a few minutes and look at what you do to create a mentor profile. You click on the Join Me tab, and then it goes to a screen where you give an email address and password, and click through, and that brings you to a screen where you essentially put in your name, first name and last name, a personal tag, which functions much the same way that your status or a tag might work within Facebook or within Google+. And then for the mentor, I essentially copied over a LinkedIn blurb about this person and pulled a picture, and this person is going to be a mentor. You have the ability to put in a job title and the company name. See if I can pause this for just a second. I thought I could pause it. Maybe I'll scroll down. There it is. You actually can put in more than one position if you want to. Later on, whenever we're able to do a single sign-on with LinkedIn, we'll actually be able to import positions through your LinkedIn profiles. After you add that, then click Next. That takes you to a screen that asks you about your college experience. This person went to the University of Kansas and got a degree in electrical engineering and computer science there. You could put in multiple degrees. Again, later with LinkedIn sign-on, it could potentially bring that up. Then asks about the country that you live in. If you live in the United States, it asks for a zip code. And it then asks about the country of citizenship. These questions are important because right now we're limiting the students that we're going to serve to being in the United States, but some of the mentors might actually be living in other countries but be citizens of the U.S., and we're really trying to make sure that we end up with mentors in our community that work internationally, because we know we have a number of students that are interested in doing so. The other kind of cool thing about asking about the zip code is that our intention is longer term to actually be able to, on our platform, show where our mentors and proteges are all around the country, using the zip code to place them. So that'll be kind of cool whenever we have it. It's kind of the same way that Facebook does with their social graph. After gathering those bits of information, it then asks about spoken languages. This particular person speaks English and Arabic, and so puts those two in. Next, it asks about degrees that are earned. This person has a BS and a master's degree. Field of expertise, has an electrical engineering degree, also has a computer science background. Asks if there are any of the member organizations that they're a part of, and they're not. The gender, whether they're first generation to college or not. This person wasn't. Whether they're Hispanic or Latino, and they're not. Then asks about their race. This particular person chose to represent themselves as another racial group. And then level of student they'd like to work with. This person had a master's degree, so I had them select everything except for the doctoral and the postdoc, that they'd be willing to work with any of those. And then they're asked what fields of the protege they'd like to work with, and this person selected electrical engineering, and then engineering overall. If there was someone that was general engineering or hadn't yet decided, they were willing to work with them as well. And then they were asked about what issues they would be willing to discuss with their protege, and so you see that picked a number of different issues that they were willing to discuss. And then they land on their profile page, and at their profile page, this is essentially what their profile looks like. At that point, the protege or the mentor essentially waits until they receive invitations from a protege to participate. Now I'd like to essentially show you the parallel process of what it looks like for a protege to onboard. Again, you click the Join MentorNet button, and type in an email address and what you want the password to be. This is the students asked for their name, first and last, and then they also have a chance to put a tagline. In this case, I think I said that they were studying electrical engineering. And then I created a tagline, or about what would appear as the paragraph that was about the student. Picked up a picture. Picture can be up to a megabyte. And this person is going to be a protege, so selected protege, and then hit next. I want to assume that this student didn't have any summer jobs. If they did, they could have listed them there as jobs, but I'm going to assume the student didn't. And then the student went to Kansas State. Their major was electrical and computer engineering. The country they live in is the United States. They live in a zip code. And then the country of citizenship is also a U.S. citizen. What languages do you speak? This person speaks English and also Spanish. where are they at in their education? This particular student is an undergraduate student, but she's not graduating this year. It asks what STEM fields they're studying, and this particular student is also an electrical engineering student. They're also studying computer engineering, sorry. They aren't a member of any of the partner organizations. And then the issues that this particular student is interested in discussing. Ask for their gender and for whether they're first generation to college. Asks if they're Hispanic or Latino, and they are, their ethnicity. Then asks about their race. This person would be classified as white. And then levels of education that they'd like to have in a mentor. This particular student would like to talk to somebody who's had a bachelor's and an MBA. And then what fields would they like the member to have expertise in? And the field would be electrical engineering. So you can see that it then populates the student's profile with recommendations. And so they're given 3 different individuals that they could potentially be in a mentorship with, Jay, Ian, and Layla. And what you'll see is that you can then click on each of those people and see a little bit about them. One of the things that we know is wrong is that we need to have, right now this brings in the full question text that the person filled out. We will switch that so that it's a short description of what that is. But essentially all of the fields that were public, it gives the experience, whether they're a member of any of the partner organizations, what their majors are, what degrees they have, what issues they're willing to talk about with their mentor, and then the level of student that they're willing to work with, and what majors they want the student to have. So the student can look at this and see whether they're really a good match, and they can go look at that for each of the people that are in the system, or that are there as recommendations. So here's what Ian looks like, and then looking at what Layla looks like. This particular student didn't want to work with didn't think they wanted a career in R&D, so they didn't think Ian was a good match. So essentially they came back in and removed him from their recommendations, and they had to confirm that because if you remove someone, it actually then takes them out of your pool, and they won't come back as a recommendation. That brought in someone else. Ray Dempsey came in, but after taking a look, Laura decided that she'd really like to ask Layla to be her mentor, and so she can come in and click on invite. It gives her a a description up at the top on what ought to be included in an invitation, and then how to draft one. And then it has a standard generic format at the bottom, but the student is encouraged to tailor it to make it specific to the situation. So the student then sends an invitation, and that invitation goes to the mentor. So what I'm looking for in terms of at this point in time, first thing I'd like for everyone to do is to get onboarded and to go create a profile within the system. And I'd like for that to happen by Saturday, the 19th at 5 p.m. As we go along, you'll get emails with instructions along the way. Sometimes I'll create a video like this that makes it very much shorter, that will tell you what we're really after in case you'd prefer to see it and hear it. As we close, I'm trying to think of some things that came up last night on the call that people asked about, and one was how we wanted you to go about giving feedback. One of the things that I would recommend is that along the way we'll at times send you a SurveyMonkey poll to give us feedback. But then in addition to that, one of the things that I've been doing is actually I went in and created a Word document that captures different small things that I think we ought to look at changing along the way. And so essentially I just took a screenshot and included it along with my comment about what we ought to consider doing. So if you're willing to do that and that's easy for you, we'd love to see that. I will also let you know that the address that we'd like for you to use to send your feedback to is the program address, which is program@minternet.net. That's something that you need to know. And then the other thing that you ought to know is that the landing page where you'll go to create your profile is beta.minternet.org, and that's the site name that you're going to use to actually go and create profiles and do alpha testing with us. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me and let me know. Thank you so much again for your willingness to help us. You're going to make a real difference in terms of being able to help us touch many lives, so it's much appreciated. Hope you have a great day. Thanks. Bye-bye.